Welcome to the GetRealWealth.com radio show, where wealth means a lot more than just building a second stream of income. Listen and learn how 70% of the millionaires in America used real estate to create a lifestyle that most people only dream about. A lifestyle that includes good health, family, romance, travel, charity, and all the other parts of a balanced life. Now, here is your host, real estate investor and mentor, Steve Davis.
Good afternoon and welcome to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I am your host, Steve Davis, and we're here to talk about building wealth and creating a life worth living. I have been on the air for different companies for about 17 years, and I've had the fortunate experience of studying literally tens of thousands of successful people and have been able to come up with some strategies and ideas from their experiences that put me in a unique position to share with you what works and what doesn't work when it comes to building a life the life that you want. Many people don't understand this, but building wealth is very easy if you're willing to sacrifice family, you're willing to sacrifice your fitness, you're willing to do, just destroy the rest of your life. It's very easy to make money. The trick to it is to lead a balanced life while building wealth. And that's really what this show is about. We're going to talk about everything from family and romance to fitness to real estate investing, employment. All the parts of a balanced life are going to be discussed on this show. And I want to start with why this show exists. And the reason shows like this, my show and others, exist is because our system is broken. Our educational system, the formal educational system, is broken. The results of that are that 95% of Americans fail to retire by age 65. Now, 36% are dead. This is according to the U.S. government, and this information is about 5 years old. But what I'm about to share with you is going to make you understand that information being 5 years old doesn't matter, because it's been that way for almost ever. See, only 5% of people are succeeding. In 2018, the median savings of an American family was less than $12,000. What's median mean? It means that half the people in the United States had $12,000 or less saved up for retirement, and half had more than that. Some of them, obviously, billions. So the next number that you need to know is, well then, what's the average? The average is only $176,000. Nowhere near enough to retire. Americans are suffering financially due to the failure of our formal educational system to teach the principles of money and wealth. The good news is that we know what the 5% that do retire wealthy are doing. It is the mission of this radio show and, of course, of our parent company, Real Wealth Academy, is to stop the suffering by educating, motivating, and encouraging personal and financial growth through real estate investment, mentoring, and consulting. Simply put, we're going to share the knowledge that the rich share with their kids that the middle class do not. And you know why the middle class do not? Because they don't know it. They were never taught it. It's not taught in our schools, our high schools. It's not taught in our colleges. Those things are there simply to teach you how to get a job, and they're really good at that. College is great. You go to college, you can get a higher paying job with your degree, as a rule, than someone who doesn't. Now, let's talk about who we are and what we do. We are a mentor and consultant group with combined experience among the mentors of over 50 years. We take people by the hand, step by step, through the real estate investing process, helping them build wealth and passive streams of income with real estate. This allows our members to live more balanced, happy, and joyful lives. Now, we use real estate to build permanent residual income that comes in for the rest of our lives. And the goal is simply to have enough of this residual permanent income that it meets and exceeds your wants and needs. You got to meet your bills. You know, there's a lot of people that talk about, well, I've got enough income from my real estate to pay all my bills, so I'm going to quit. I've reached the goal. I got to warn you, that's not the goal. Because don't you want to travel? What about romance? What about just flat out having fun? No, you need to cover your bills and have that additional income for fun, for just living a quality lifestyle. An example that I like to use is very simple. Go out over the next 5, maybe it takes you 10 years, and buy yourself 20 little single-family houses. Those 20 houses are going to make you $6,000 to $8,000 a month in cash flow. It will take less than 10 hours a month to run those. A 200-unit apartment may make you $25,000 a month in passive income and take 0 hours a month to run. We will discuss that on later shows. If I've got some time today, I'll actually hit on that. But what this does, this passive income, is allows you to work less at your employment. And who I'm really referring to are not the people working 30, 40 hours a week. I think most people enjoy that. It's a reasonable amount of time. I'm talking to the people who are 50, 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week. I've talked to people like that before. This allows you to buy your life back from your company. Slowly but surely, as you build your residual income, you can buy your life back. You can work less at your job. You can even quit your job at some point if that's what you choose. I've got to warn you, there's a lot of talk around town about retirement, like retirement is the goal. And I'm here to tell you, that's not the goal. It's not. I retired 2 times. Once about 20 years ago when I was 30, 25 years ago, holy Toledo. 25 years ago when I was 30, I retired for about 6-month period. I hated it. I was miserable. I didn't have any purpose. I didn't know why I was here. It just wasn't, it's not fun. It's not what it's cracked up to be. 2 years ago, I resigned from a company, and for the last 2 years, I didn't work, and it sucked. I was so excited to get back today that I'm actually almost shaking as I'm sitting here in excitement to be back on the air, because I feel like my purpose in life is to share this information, to help other people the way that this information helped me. You know, I grew up in a mobile home in the hills of North Carolina, and I've invested in over 4,000 single-family and apartment units in my life. So I've made massive changes. All right, we got to go to break. We'll talk more here on the GetRealWealth.com radio show right here on AM 700, the voice of Texas, KSEV. Thanks for listening. Did you know that 70% of the millionaires in America used real estate as their main investment vehicle? You can and should have some real estate in your portfolio. This is Steve Davis, host of the GetRealWealth.com radio show. Starting with bad credit and no money at age 27, I began investing in real estate. By 30, I was retired. I will be explaining this at a free 2-hour introductory workshop this month. If you would like to attend, go to GetRealWealth.com. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thank you for listening. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis, and we're talking about really why this radio show exists, what our mission is, and it's basically a sales pitch for listening, to continue to listen to the show, because this material changed my life. I've seen it change literally tens of thousands of other people's lives for the better. And what I've got to do is I kind of forgot to share something with you in the first segment. And let's go back. I'll address why I don't think retirement is the goal in a moment, because that's where we kind of left off at the end of the last break. I want to go back to where I was talking about. Let me scroll down here, back to this information. And in this point, what I'm trying to do is create some pain for you so that you can use that pain to motivate yourself to take action, hopefully on the material I'm sharing with you. And it's the point that 4 or 5 years ago, the U.S. government found that 95% of Americans failed to retire by age 65. I want you to listen to this little thing from literally 100 years ago. Listen, please.
Well, let's take 100 men who start even at the age of 25. Do you have any idea what will happen to those men by the time they're 65? These 100 men who all start even at the age of 25 believe they're going to be successful. If you ask any one of these men if he wanted to be a success, he'd tell you he did. And you'd notice that he was eager toward life, that there was a certain sparkle to his eye, an erectness to his carriage, and life seemed like a pretty interesting adventure to him. But by the time they're 65, 1 will be rich. 4 will be financially independent. 5 will still be working. 54 will be broke. Now think a moment. Out of the 100, only 5 make the grade.
Now, isn't that interesting? Did you recognize those statistics? They were identical 100 years ago to today. See, it's not changing, and it's not going to change because, again, the educational system is set up to make you a cog in the machine. We need workers. And so our school systems are training you just to be a worker. Is there anything wrong with that? No. It makes the country run. Work is your friend. It's your buddy. It's the right thing to do with your life. And that leads me into what we were talking about at the end of the last back into what we were talking about at the end of the last segment. Retirement is not the goal. It sucks. It's the last step before what? Death. You know, the average life expectancy of a white male after retirement is like 3 years. So that's your goal. You're working all your life to get old and retire. I suggest you change that goal. The goal is actually financial independence. Now, in defense of the people that promote retirement all the time, that is retirement in their definition. Meaning, if your bills are $5,000 a month and you have $10,000 a month in residual income, passive residual income, you could quit your job, couldn't you? Here's the thing. I warn you, don't do that. Be careful of what you ask for because you'll get it. And it may not be what you actually want. So, in my experience, as I shared with you, both times that I was in retirement or semi-retirement, I hated it. It was boring. I felt missionless. I felt useless. But you have to be in a job that is your passion. If you're in a job that you hate, then when you get $10,000 passive income, I want you to quit your job and go find something you love to do with your time. Perhaps it's charity. Perhaps it's teaching. Who knows? It could be anything. It's amazing what I've learned from mentoring over the last 30 plus years that people love to do. There's people who love to lay tile. There's people who love to paint houses. There's people who love to paint pictures. There's people who love to photograph things. So it can be anything. But if you're going to be happy, you better be in your passion. And again, my sales pitch is retirement's not the goal. Financial independence is the goal. That way, when you do retire, you're not a burden on your children or a burden on the government. You've got that extra stream of income that comes in the rest of your life, whether you live 3 years in retirement or 20 years in retirement. So when we talk about financial independence, I want you to think of it as the ability to retire, but I'm warning you, don't do it unless that's you have to because you're just too old to work, which unfortunately does happen. But if you're young, healthy, even if you're old and healthy and you can work, I guarantee you're going to be happier working, helping, and serving others than you are sitting on the beach sipping a Mai Tai every day for the next 20 years. So there, in a nutshell, is what this show is all about. It's about building a life that includes family, romance, fitness, relationships, fun, continuing education, that one we call personal growth, charity, spirituality, and of course, career and wealth. Now, you'll notice that I separated career and wealth, and let's take a few moments to discuss why. The problem in America and across America is that people think their career is their wealth. They define themselves by their job and their income. But that's not your wealth. In a balanced life, you have two streams of income, your earned income and your residual or passive income. And there's the piece that's missing. When I said earlier that there's hope, that we know what the 5% are doing that do retire wealthy, that's what they're doing. All, excuse me, all of them own businesses and real estate. 70% of them real estate. Think about that. 70% of the millionaires in the United States, and this is commonly said in other countries as well, some of them as high as 90%, but 70 to 90% of the millionaires in the world are real estate related. That was their main vehicle. And the question I'll ask those of you, because a lot of you do have real estate in your portfolio, by the way, an REIT, RIT, whatever you call it, is not real estate investing. That's no better than a stock. And I'm not a stock guy. I don't like stocks. And we'll discuss that on another show. Those of you that do have real estate, you understand this. My question is this: if you don't have some real estate in your portfolio, why? Why in the world would you not participate in the vehicle that produces 70% of the millionaires? It doesn't make sense. And some of you can say, well, I didn't know it was 70% of the millionaires. This is common knowledge. It's out there. And it's been out there. The first time I heard it was from a CD that was something like 70 years old. Not a CD, a cassette tape that was a recording of a radio show from like 70 years ago. So it's been that high for a long, long time. Why aren't you participating in it? The answer to that question is what this show is going to be about. We're going to address, I was about to pull the punch, but I'm not going to. You know what it is? You have a fear. You have a fear about investing in real estate. It may be the simple fear that, well, I don't have enough money or I don't have enough credit. It may be the fear that I don't have the time. That's a big one. People think real estate consumes a bunch of time. It could be all kinds of fear. Oh, what about tenants? What about toilets? What about taxes? All those fears hold you back. And what you've got to understand is that every fear that's holding you back, I have it too, but I do it anyway. You're not foolish to have those fears. In fact, they're logical, real concerns. What you have to understand, though, is that you're not the first person to think of that. And many people before us figured it out. They figured it out. They figured out how to deal with tenants, how to deal with toilets, how to deal with taxes, how to run property in only 20 houses in only a few hours a month. how to run an apartment complex in 0 hours a month. They figured it out. And they have shared that information in hundreds of books and cassettes and CDs now, and of course online classes and online audio. It's out there. I call these the best practices of, I don't call them, everybody calls them the best practices of real estate. And that's what you've got to learn. And that's what we're going to be talking about. And oh, by the way, I need to put up a brief disclaimer before I proceed into any more of this material. I want to make sure that you understand that none of this material is mine. None of it. It's nobody's. Because it's everybody's. See, over the last 2 years, when I had the 2 years off, what I did was I went back and read all of the books, listened to all of the CDs, even cassettes. I even had to buy a cassette player to do that. Re-listened to them. And I did it to keep myself from going insane for not working for 2 years. But it helped me in multiple ways. One, it helped me document that nothing I say is copyrightable. Two, it humbled me, because I suddenly realized that all of this material, everything I've said on this show so far, has been said dozens of times before in books, CDs, online videos, and online audio. All right, this is the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Thanks for listening. We'll talk more after the break. "70% of the millionaires in America used real estate as their main investment vehicle. Listen to the GetRealWealth.com radio show to find out how you can do it too. Saturdays at 9 a.m. right here on the Voice of Texas, AM 700 KSCB. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. I want to thank everybody for listening, and I'm not going to open the phone lines today. One person emailed me and asked me if I was. I'm not going to, but if you have a question about anything that I've said, I would like to give you my email. It's asksteve@getrealwealth.com, and you're welcome to ask me anything. I will reply to you myself. I don't have an assistant doing that for me. I do it myself. So, and it can be about real estate investing. It can be about trying to do it while leading a balanced life, which I get, interestingly enough, a lot of questions about, because it is difficult. If you don't plan correctly, if you don't understand passive versus active income, you can just end up with a second job, and that's not the goal. One of the examples of that is flipping. People, and we teach flipping in our group, but it's with the understanding that that's earned income. That's just a job. You go out, find a house, rehab it, sell it. To get more money, what do you have to do? Go out, find a house, rehab it, and sell it. You're also taxed as earned income. It's a very highly taxed endeavor. So it's very easy to screw up your life if you don't plan in advance for exactly what type of real estate you're going to do. At the end of the last, it's asksteve@getrealwealth.com. Asksteve@getrealwealth.com. If you've got a question, I will email you after the show. At the end of the last segment, I said the phrase humbled me, and I got an email asking what that meant. I guess I forgot to actually go into that. And what it was is, over 27, 30 years of mentoring, I got a little arrogant. I started thinking I had thought of stuff, that it was me, my information, and, it's not. And it humbled me, and I'm going to give credit mostly to Tony Robbins. If you're not familiar with him, 30 years ago, I bought a set of 30 tape cassettes that on leading a more productive life. He called it Success. It was 30 Days to Success tape set. Some of you probably remember it. But I went back through that. 80% of what's in my brain came out of that. And I documented it. Everything that I say, I find it in a book, I document it. So I've got that. And it's humbling because you realize there's nothing new. And then I was reading Andrew Carnegie, and you know what Andrew Carnegie said 100 years ago? There's nothing new. And I was like, what the heck? 100 years ago, people were discovering the same thing that I just discovered. There is nothing new. There are no secrets. I can tell you this right now. I don't do this, but I consider it. The minute a person says, I have a secret, I almost want to turn off the radio. Because they don't. They don't have a secret. It's out there. Grant Cardone's got a real estate investing program. I think it's 10 grand. I should know it's 10 grand because I bought it. And it's excellent. It's got incredible information. But guess what? Nothing that I hadn't heard before. Why? Because I bought Dave Delgado. I bought Tommy Vu. I bought almost every set of books and CDs that there was back then, or borrowed them from a friend. In fact, a couple of friends mailed me some of their old sets, and that was also humbling because I was like, man, they're saying the exact same thing. So nothing is new, nothing's secret. But here's the problem. We discussed it earlier. It's not taught in our schools. It's your responsibility to go find it. And here's the problem. It can take, even including the internet, you combine the library and the internet, it could take you 5 years, it could take you 10 years to glean off all these ideas and get to the right ones. Does that make sense? It could take you 5-10 years to do it. When I paid Grant Cardone 10 grand and got it, I think it took me a week to go through it. That's life-changing. That's life-changing. There's ways to get it in 2 days. Our program is set up on a 2-day class. It's life-changing. When you cut off 10 years or 5 years of the educational process by taking a doggone 2-day class. Why do I read so much? I want to share this story with you because it's important that you understand why you want to be reading constantly. First off, Tony Robbins says this, and I know this is absolutely true. You are who you are 5 years from now, even 1 year from now. Who you are 1 year from now, 5 years from now, will be a direct result of the books that you read and the people that you meet. How many of you read, let's say, one nonfiction book last year on building wealth? The statistic is 70% of Americans never read a nonfiction book again after high school or college. Never. Do you realize in that case that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and I consult them, I meet 55-year-olds, I'm 55, that are the same as they were when they were 23 and graduated college? They haven't grown a bit because they didn't read, they didn't meet new people, they just stagnated. And that's why most 55-year-olds are broke, 95% of them. See, if you want to change your life, you've got to read. Let me give you one more example of how to cut decades off the educational process. Read a book. One of my friends, I was in his office, and he had a copy of Ben Franklin's autobiography. And he was reading it. I said, man, you read a lot. He goes, yeah, you don't understand it. And he stood up out of his chair. He got so excited. And he picked up that autobiography of Ben Franklin and he shook it at me. And he goes, do you know that I can read this in a week and get 84 years of experience? 84 years of experience in a week. I've been a reader ever since. And I am encouraging you to get out there and read. If you're not a big reader, then do it through audiobooks. There's no excuse. I have probably several hundred audiobooks, all nonfiction, all wealth building, family building, romance building, books on my phone. When I get into the car, I don't even have to hit a button. One of them starts playing. And I listen on my commutes. I listen to my drive down to my house in Galveston. And every week I'm getting, 5 or 10 hours of training in. Do you see why people can't compete with someone who's doing that? Not a lot of people know this statistic. This one's insane. This destroys me. But did you know that the CEOs of these big companies on average read 60 nonfiction books? These are people that make, I think it's 11 million or more a year. They read 60 nonfiction books a year. I don't even read 6, but it's still 6 more than everybody else. And then you multiply that times 10 years, that's 60. You're growing. You're becoming more. You're able to achieve your goals better. You're able to work with your children better. You're able to express your love to your wife better. Everything that you can think of, there's dozens of books on that subject. Dozens. Get out there and find them. Read and listen to radio shows like this, and you will grow. If you're not reading, if you're not meeting new people, you're going to stagnate, just like most of the people that I meet. I mean, it's 95% of people. They're stagnating. They're the same at 55 as they were at 23 or maybe 18. Maybe they didn't even go to college. They're the same, and they don't understand why they're having difficulty in one of the greatest capitalist societies, the most effective capitalist society in the world, and they can't figure out how to make money. They can't figure out how to get ahead. It's because they're the same person they were at 18 or 23. All right, this is the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. You're listening to AM 700, the voice of Texas, KSEV. Thanks for listening. Did you know that 70% of the millionaires in America used real estate as their main investment vehicle? You can and should have some real estate in your portfolio. This is Steve Davis, host of the GetRealWealth.com radio show. Starting with bad credit and no money at age 27, I began investing in real estate. By 30, I was retired. I will be explaining this at a free 2-hour introductory workshop this month. If you would like to attend, go to GetRealWealth.com. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thank you for listening. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. My email is open for you. I'm not opening the phone lines today because I really want to just give you the basic sales pitch for why to keep listening to this show. And it's really for personal growth. Do something. But I don't want you just listening to this show. I want you reading. I want you listening to CDs and believing that there's a better way. In other words, if you're not happy with your financial position, there's a better way, and you can do it. The one thing that I learned that shocked me, well, many things shocked me. I shouldn't say it that way. One of many things that shocked me was I had a guy with 27 houses that couldn't do math. He couldn't do math. He had 27 houses. You think you can't do this? There's no way in my brain you can do real estate without being able to do math. He did it. He showed me. So Anybody can do this. You can do this. Just get yourself educated on the best practices and start building some wealth for yourself. Buy your life back from your company and start enjoying life more. Got an email here. It's a very interesting way that they said it. It's very, very respectful, even though it's a relatively harsh question. They said, look, I don't want to be disrespectful, but if this is so easy, why doesn't everybody do it? And that answer is very easy. What you want to think about, and this comes from Tony Robbins, the answer to this can be compared to fitness. Here's the question. Does exercise work? Yes, it works massively. It reduces your risk of cancer. It reduces your liver problems. It reduces kidney problems, energizes you, increases your libido, makes you look better, makes you feel better, gives you more energy. And all it takes is 3 times a week for an hour. It's easy. Why doesn't everybody do it? See, the answer to the question is, I don't know. I do not know why everybody doesn't do it. It's, the brutal way to put it is, I guess they just don't care. That's what I thought when I was younger, was when I would see somebody obese, I would go, well, they just don't care. I mean, why would they overeat? Why would they not exercise? They just don't care. That's not really the truth. The bottom line is this. You can't say something is not easy or something doesn't work just because everybody doesn't do it. See, if a small group of people are doing it and succeeding, that's what you want to look at. So I actually really appreciate this question because it's a very, very honest question. And it took some courage to ask because you may have thought you might offend me, but it's really a good question. Why doesn't everybody do it? And I don't know. Other than the classic answer for why people don't do anything in their lives that they should be doing, they associate more pain than pleasure to doing it. They're afraid. When I talk to people about investing in real estate, people throw up on me all of their fears. I mentioned them in the first segment. The fear of tenants, the fear of not having good enough credit, not having enough income, not having the down payment, toilets, taxes. They have all these fears about it. And that gives them the excuse not to take action. But it's just an excuse. So, in answer to your question, I don't know the exact reason why everybody doesn't do it, but think about that fitness analogy. Why isn't everybody in shape? Why isn't everybody at the gym 3 times a week for an hour? It's a tough call. So don't discount it just because everybody's not doing it. Then there's the reverse of the answer, which is kind of humorous in my opinion. When a guy who was a mentor of mine probably 40 years ago, Colonel A.I. Thomas, U.S. Marine retired, he said this to me. He said, in just about all cases, whatever the majority of people are doing, don't do it. Do what the few are doing. And at the time, I was 16, 17, 18, but I had already expressed to him at that time that I wanted to be wealthy, and I wanted to do something that would make me wealthy other than just go to college. And he was mentoring me on how he had built his wealth. He talked about how everybody thought he was crazy when he was buying real estate. Everybody thought he was crazy when he was investing in businesses. Everybody around him. Guess what that number probably was? 95% of the people thought he was crazy. But when he retired, he was where? What percentage? The top 5%. So, great question, Just don't let it hold you back. Doesn't have to be us, but find some mentor group and join up, get the knowledge, and start executing. Yes, it seems like everybody should do it, but they're just not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. Okay, here's one question, which is simple. What's your favorite book? Whoa, that's tough. There's really, I'm going to give you three, and you can pick any of these three, any one of these three to start with. But the first one is Tony Robbins' Unlimited Power. Unlimited Power. That's the one I told you I got 80% of my material is in that book. I mean, it was shocking when I reread it and re-listened to the CDs. Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I believe that is probably my favorite. Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and then Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Those three books are really the trifecta for my mind. It's where I get 90% of what I talk about, you're going to find in those books. And what reading those books will do for you is reinforce, and I believe this very strongly, that repetition is the mother of learning. You know, when I'm listening to these CDs from 30 years ago, well, they were tapes. You know that I can tell what's coming next 30 years later. Why? Because I listened to them like 15 times. I've listened to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People CD set, and I think it's 8 or 9 CDs. I've listened to that 15 times. I've actually read the book 7 or 8 times. No, it may be 15 times because it just changed my life. It changed the course of the company I was working at when we read it. It's just phenomenal. So those are the three. Tony Robbins' Unlimited Power, Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Again, my email is open, and I wasn't going to answer these on the show, but they're really good questions. Email me, and I'll email you myself after the show. It's asksteve@getrealwealth.com. asksteve@getrealwealth.com. And that's 24 hours a day. You get home, and you can go to getrealwealth.com, and at the bottom of the landing page is a Ask Steve questionnaire. So you can just put in your email, type the question, and that comes to me as well. And again, I answer them myself. Okay. Now, last thing I'd like to cover is the concept of leading a balanced life. Leading a balanced life is hard for anybody, and this is literally no matter what their income level. Many people think, well, if I make a lot of money, I'll be able to lead a balanced life. Well, I'm telling you, I've worked with people who make 60 grand a year. I've worked with people who make 600 grand a year. I've even worked with a few that made more than that. And they were in terribly unbalanced lives. See, the work-life balance seems almost impossible to most people, but it is not. And after 30 years of mentoring and studying successful people, I've figured out a formula that works, and I'm going to share it with you on this show. See, I have, and forgive me, what I'm about to say may have come across as bragging, but I've been married to the same woman for 33 years, and she is still passionate, we're still romantic, it's so much fun. Our marriage is so much fun, it's just wonderful. I raised 2 wonderful children that are excelling at life, and I did this while I accumulated almost 4,000 units. Well, most people would say, oh man, you can't do that. There's even a billionaire on TV that irritates the daylights out of me that says you can't be rich and not work 60, 70 hours a week. He is dead wrong. Dead wrong. I'm going to tell you this right now. I am the laziest son of a gun you've ever met. But I understand that while that's my weakness, what is your biggest weakness sometimes? It's also your greatest strength, just like your greatest strength is sometimes your greatest weakness. And if you study Bill Gates, he actually said that. He told his people, hire lazy people. Hire lazy people because they will figure out the most efficient, best way to do anything and everything. So if you keep listening to this show, I will start sharing with you how I was able to do that and how you can do it too. This has been the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. My email is asksteve@GetRealWealth.com. Thank you so much for listening.
This has been the GetRealWealth.com radio show. Please remember that this show is for entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as legal, tax, or investing advice. Always get a professional opinion before making any investment decision. To find out about the mentoring and consulting at Real Wealth Academy, visit GetRealWealth.com and attend one of our free introductory workshops on real estate investing. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thanks for listening and have a great rest of your day.